have two really fantastic speakers for our guest Ryan to hear today. We are starting late, so I will begin right now with our introduction to our timer. Sarah Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest, Ryan, and to our many Toastmasters that are here today. Hopefully more people will come. I'm Sarah Jenkins. I'll be the timer for today. My role is really just to keep us all on time, make sure we fit into the 50 minutes or so that we have left. And the speakers have a range of times that they're requesting. And once they've reached their minimum time limit, when they have 2 minutes remaining, they'll see the green card and a green light in the back. When there's 1 minute remaining, a yellow card and a yellow light. And when there's time is up, a red card and a red light. And if you go 30 seconds or more over, then you'll get a buzzer. And I'm confident enough to push it. Our table topics are 1 to 2 minutes long. And once you hit 1 minute, you'll see the green card. 1.5 minutes will be the yellow, and 2 minutes will be the red card. And finally, our evaluation portion, the evaluators get 2 to 3 minutes, similar to before. At the 2 minute mark, you see the green card, 2.5 minutes yellow, and 3 minutes the red, and 30 seconds will apply there as well. And at the end, they'll come back and give a timer's report.
Marion is not here yet, so I will let you know what the word of the day is. We have chosen the word odious, meaning disgusting or hateful, and a sentence and how this word could be used is cleaning the toilet is the most odious chore. Ooh. So, I, in lieu of Melissa, will track your ahs and ums today, so's, and any other connectors that you might use. I'll also be looking for what's the word I'm looking for, Tanya?
Colorful.
Picturesque.
Picturesque.
Colorful language and how you use the English language. Any words that pop out and are picturesque. With that, I will ask our first speaker to come forward. Miss Tanya is speaking from the Storytelling Manual, Project 5, Bringing History to Life. And her title is Bringing History to Life. Is that the title?
Sacagawea.
Sacagawea. Please welcome Tanya.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most distinguished and welcome guest, Ryan. Today I'm talking out of the Storytelling Manual. I'm going to give Ryan just a little background because we only have 2 speakers and so we have more time. Ryan, the Storytelling Manual is an advanced communicator manual. Before, if you join Toastmasters, you first do 10 speeches. You could, by the way, time me anyway. You can do 10 speeches, and they're like to help you build up your, and the first one is easy. The first one is you tell about yourself. So you can't even forget it because it's your own story. So that's an easy one, and everybody does great, and I'm sure you'll do awesome if you do that first speech. Now, after you do the first 10 speeches, then you can branch out into all sorts of areas. I have a background in storytelling from high school, so I chose the Storytelling Manual and interpreted reading manual to do my second goal. Because as you reach goals, you win awards and you get disclaimers, and eventually you become a distinguished Toastmaster. And I'm far from there yet, but I'm looking forward for that to reach that goal. So that's why I'm speaking from the Storytelling Manual. You would never have to do this if that's not your thing. There are plenty of other kinds of speeches to give. I don't want to scare them because storytelling isn't everybody's cup of tea. So with that, Sacagawea, the first time I heard the name Sacagawea, I thought, well, that's weird. What is that kind of name? And I heard it because they brought out the gold coin in 2000, and I'm all about collecting cool coins. I think that's really neat. So I had to go get myself a Sacagawea coin. I also have a stash of $2 bills at home that my great aunt sends me for every birthday. And I don't want to spend them because they're so cool. They're $2 bills, but Sacagawea is not on those. So Sacagawea is on the gold coin. And I wanted to know, well, what did she do to get on the gold coin, gold dollar? Well, it's not really gold. It's just gold colored. because I thought, well, there's no women on coins in America yet. There's women on coins in England, and there's women on coins all over the world, but there's no women on money in America. So I wanted to find out all about that. Many, many years ago, in the 1700s, Sacagawea was born to the Shoshone tribe in Idaho, in what is now the United States of America. I guess 1776, it wasn't the United States of America yet when she was born. When she was 12 years old, that's my daughter's age, she was kidnapped by a bunch of other marauding Indians, and they didn't kill her, they just marauded her family's, or her tribe, and they took whatever they wanted, and they went back over to North Dakota, and they kept her. Which I think is very weird. But anyway, they kept her. So a few years later, her tribe that she was captured by, they sold her off or married her off to a fur trader, Charbonneau. And just at that time, guess what was happening in history? Lewis and Clark were taking an expedition to map out the West for the United States government to go all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. And they stumbled upon the North Dakota tribe where Sacagawea was there as a squaw wife of Charbonneau. And Lewis and Clark asked these Indians, how can we get over to the West? And they go, well, it's pretty treacherous, there's lots of terrible things there, I don't know. And so they had to trade with the guys. And the fur trader wasn't owned, you know, by the fur trader wasn't owned by that tribe, but he just lived with them because they gave him their squaw, their conquest, Sacagawea. So Lewis and Clark contracted with this Charbonneau fur trader guy to take him to the West. And he said the reason they wanted him was because a squaw was from some tribe out there, and they thought it might do them some good. Maybe she'd been out there and she could figure out the way to get out there. And she was fine. She was pregnant, but she was fine with that. And they offered to pay him $355 if he got him all the way there and all the way back alive. So they traveled westward, and Sacagawea turned out to be, of the 36 people in the trip, the most valuable person on the trip. The most valuable person. Even though women didn't have the right to vote, she was basically property of Charbonneau. She was the one who, when all their canoes tipped over, pregnant, she gathered all the things that were falling out in the river and pulled them to shore and saved all their records and stuff. She was just incredible. And as they went farther west, Lewis and Clark kept a diary. And he said, this squaw woman is amazing. Everything she does is great. There's not much to do with Charbonneau. He's not very good, but this woman is great. And he might have used more old-fashioned words, and his spelling was really poor. For Charbonneau, he wrote like S-H-A-R-B-O-N-O, Charbonneau, you know, and not the real French spelling. All sorts of crazy things. And when they wanted to camp somewhere, they let Sacagawea vote. They would take votes for the 36 of them. They didn't keep her out, and they even had a black slave with them, and they let him vote. So all 36 of them got to vote. And I don't know where Lewis and Clark got this idea, but I think it happened to be because Sacagawea was so smart and talented. They figured out that, you know, she knew more than they did about where they were going, so they certainly weren't going to, they were going to acquiesce to her ideas, and maybe she would have better ideas than they did. And she always voted to stay in the campsites that were closer to potatoes. I don't know why, but she was in he called them pots, but they're potatoes. So on their way to this historical day, something that happened was she had her baby. And all she did was wrap it up, put it on her back, and keep going. And Lewis and Clark loved her and her baby, and they gave the baby a nickname. They called him, not Popeye, Poppy. That was baby Poppy. So everybody called the baby Poppy, and she wore him on her back. As they went through the nature and the wilderness, you know, they saw bears and elk and all sorts of crazy creatures. And finally, after many, many months, they were traveling westward. I'm guessing this is westward. In my mind, it's westward. And she saw this giant rock that they called the Two Beaver Head Rock, because it looks like two beaver heads. And she said, there we are. That's where, we're almost there. We're almost to where I grew up. That's where my family is. We're almost there. And as they were approaching, a whole bunch of wild Indians, not from her pack, came running at her, and they grabbed the whole group, and they were going to slaughter them. So there's all these crazy Indians around them hollering the, hey, I don't know what they hollered, but horrible horrible things. And they're tying them up and they're gonna massacre them, they wanna take them, they put them on, like, you know, what's that? Where you tie up their hands and legs and you take them away on sticks, just like in the cowboy movies. They were taking them to be slaughtered. And they hauled them around the Double Beaverhead Rock to this tribe that was there, to the chief. And the big chief came out, looked around, and they were trying to interpret, they had to interpret 4 different ways to try to explain to him what they were doing. And he allowed them to explain what they were doing. And they had to have somebody who spoke that language to speak to someone else, and finally the Sacagawea could interpret something, and then they could tell Lewis and Clark what they were trying to say. But at that moment, Sacagawea, the chief saw Sacagawea was talking, and he looked at her, and he walked a little closer, and he looked at her some more, and he said, Sacagawea, is it you, my sister? Yeah. It happened to be that Sacagawea's brother had become the chief of this new tribe, and so they didn't massacre the Lewis and Clark expedition. Instead, they all celebrated. Lewis and Clark got to trade, they traded them tons of stuff for 2 beaver coats, because the Indians were helping the Shoshone, or I don't know if they were Shoshone, but they were helping them get beaver coats so they wouldn't die during the winter, so they would be warm. And there was 2 bear coats, and there was 1 special beaver pelt coat, and the chief wouldn't give it up unless he got to have Sacagawea's beaded, very fancy beaded special belt that she had made. He wanted that because it was a remembrance of his sister. And she was fine to go on with this expedition. She didn't want to stay with there wasn't anything about, oh, well, now we get our sister back and you guys can go on your way. She was fine, happy to go on being the great leader that she was of this expedition. So that's my story. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but I just thought it was so cool that Sacagawea saved the lives of Lewis and Clark, and that should be a really big deal that every kid should know. And I saw some people nodding their heads that they know it, but I never knew that. And so now that there is in America right now a mission to have paper money made with women's face on it, I would vote for Sacagawea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. I'll ask our timer for 1 minute for evaluations. For our guest Ryan, this is a period where we write our evaluations. Most valued speakers here he's been with the Toastmaster Club and also belongs to other Toastmasters clubs, I think up to 5 total. He's a very prolific speaker. I would like to welcome Joe at this time. He's going to speak on Prepare for the Inevitable from the Professional Speaker Manual. And as an introduction, Joe is speaking on, he knows you don't want to die, but it is eventually inevitable. And he will share more with us on this. Thank you.
I've asked that each of you has a slip so I can get some feedback. This is a subject that you could write your both. You have both. I don't care which kind you have.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure you have slip. This is a subject which I'm so interested in. I plan to write a book on it. And so any feedback you give me is for you. Today I'm going to cover 3 ways to get ready to die in order. Now that sounds pretty grim, pretty odious, but in fact, I get a point for that one. Just to give you an idea of how popular the subject is, the most famous book on this subject is a book by Ernest Becker called Denial of Death. And he discusses why it's so hard for people to talk about and think about and write about death. He got a Pulitzer Prize for it. A movie has been made of the book, and needless to say, it is not a bestseller. Has any of you heard of it? No. I heard about it because my minister studied it in her seminary. It's that serious a book. Well, I don't want to get that deeply involved, but I wish to cover 3 things to get ready. The first is the big pair. There's two things everybody should get done immediately. And I see you nodding, I bet you can guess what they are. The second thing is to get a helper to clean up. Most people don't realize what a mess they leave when they die. Have any of you cleaned up after a dead person? You have.
Yeah.
I have.
And you have too. So you know what I'm talking about. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that have to go on. And I'm gonna give you a suggestion about that. Helping these people. And the third thing, and the most important subject, one which I had to learn the hard way, is that we should be talking about death. It's not a subject that we should wait until the end of the day or the end of our life to talk about. Because frankly, it was hard to talk about then. Just imagine trying to talk about the death of a loved one with them, just as they're dying. You don't do it. So we have to do something to get ahead of that. Well, let's start with the big pair. How many of you have a will? One hand, two hands. Of the two of you, is it notarized? That is, it was signed by a lawyer or by a notary public? Okay, so at least you've got two notarized wills. Second of all, how many of you have advanced directives in writing? It looks like it's the same people. Now, why in the world do I talk to youngsters like you guys about such grim subjects? Why can't you wait until you need to do it? And the answer is twofold. One, you never know when you're gonna die. You may be in an accident or some illness, so you can't really do it at a time. Do it ahead of time, do it now. But a much more important reason, and that's the third point I'm gonna cover, you just can't talk about it when it happens. That's not the time to talk about it. I'm gonna talk about my own personal experience with my wife as she was dying. You just can't do it when it's on the right spot. So get started now. Talk about it now. Go down and think about what your death would be like, how it would affect the people, and start talking about it now. It's not an unpleasant subject when you start thinking about taking care of people you care about and seeing your needs met. You're just essentially getting things organized. So the big pair is a will and an advance directive. Now what I want to talk about advance directives is a rather complicated subject. Did you fill out the Mayo advance directive?
Yeah.
And did you too? Or you have a different one? Which
Yeah.
one did you fill out?
I found it online, so I don't remember. It's been about 5 years.
About 5 years ago. Well, both, at least the Mayo advance directive covers all medical things, how to treat your illness and what to do with the body and all that, which is important. But it's not enough. There's a new advance directive which I'd like to recommend to each of you to look at. It's called the 5 Wishes. In this advance directive, which is completely respected by Mayo and everywhere in Minnesota, they cover all those medical things, which are a little bit grim and odious. But in addition, they ask 5 questions. How do you want to be treated? How do you want, what you want to tell your relatives? What's important to you? It helps the survivors deal with your wishes, not just your body. And that's why the 5 wishes is so much nicer. And it's a nice way to get a conversation started. People don't want to talk about them because they all have wishes. So, the big pair is a will and an advance directive. And my suggestion is to start thinking about it right now, because it's not an unpleasant subject now. It's so remote, you don't think it will ever happen. And it's nice to get it straight. The second thing I want to talk about is what I call the 3, well, first of all, you need someone to clean up the mess. You know what it's like because you've been through it. There's more than 60 things that have to be organized and straightened out after someone dies. No one's ever counted that up before. When I gave this talk in the past, funeral directors ask for a copy of my talk because nobody has ever got a list of 60 things you should do ahead of time. So, if any of you want, and that's why you have a slip now, you can ask me to send it to you. I can have a list of these 60 things. They break down into 3 categories. 1, hard to find things. Keys, combinations, lock boxes, secrets that you don't want to tell people. Second of all, possessions. What should you do with all the things you own? Your jewelry, your honors, your papers. This was really a big embarrassment to me in the case of my wife. We never talked about that. When she died, she left a room full of, a whole apartment full of stuff, and I didn't know what to do with it. And nobody knew, her family's all over the world, so nobody knew what to do. So do what you can to help people decide who's the best person to use each of your valued traditions. You can do something really nice if the right person gets it. And then the third thing is arrangements. The, of course, dance director and will. But in addition, where does the body go? Do you have arrangements? Are you going to donate the body? And finally, and this is something that I'd like to give a little attention to, an obituary. How would you like to be remembered? Believe me, nobody's going to write the same obituary that you would write. I'm writing mine right now, and I'll give you a hint on how to do it, because it isn't something you normally want to do. Of course, you put down the factual things, where you live, what you did, and anything you did that you're proud of. Maybe some of the things you're not so proud of. But in addition, I've been asking all my friends to write me a 1-sentence statement of how good you did it. And I'm going to put that in the obituary. Because that's really what an obituary is. It's a memory of you. And these people, it's really amazing the things which will tell you, or which you tell other people if they ask you for theirs. So those are the 3 things. And the most important thing is to have a cleanup person. Now, obviously, if you're living with a spouse, they're the obvious cleanup person. Well, maybe not. If you're a woman and your man is a spouse, men often predecease you. So what happens if he predeceases you? What are you going to do about that? You ought to start thinking about that issue also. Not in front of him, but in back of him anyway. So, and ideally, it would be a younger person, because they'll still be around when you're gone. And so what you need is, you need my list, by the way, of 60 things you want to teach them. So you want them to know where everything goes and where you're hiding things and how to, and what to do with it. But now comes the most important part of the talk, and I'm already out of time. I'm going to take a couple more minutes, so. When we told, my wife was a rheumatologist here, some of you may know her. And she'd been dealing with an ailment for a long time, 30 years, but eventually the doctor came and told us that she was going to die pretty quick. So guess what do you think happened? We quit talking about her death. That's the most serious mistake I've made in my whole life. I didn't want to bring the subject up because I thought it would bother her. I thought I was protecting her. I don't know why she didn't bring it up. There are 2 kinds of people in the world, those that can talk about their death and those that can't. And maybe she was one that couldn't. Anatole Gowady, who's a brilliant writer, talked about the problem that physicians have with patients who don't want to admit that they're dying and can't face it. But there's some possible way you could start talking. I have so many things that I wish that we had talked about. The most serious one is, how are you feeling about dying? What are your fears? What are your worries? What do you think is important in your life? What has been important in your life? Believe me, if you can learn to talk now, start tonight. Go home tonight and talk about your death to your family and ask them about their death. Start talking about it. This conversation could be so meaningful. It could be a treasure that you'll remember the rest of your life. So don't let that subject go. Think about talking. Now, I'm going to have to give a talk once. One of the feedbacks I got, I gave this talk this morning, by the way. The one suggestion that I heard that was so good was, what do you do how do you get people to talk? I said, well, I don't know how to do that. I didn't know how to talk, so we didn't talk. So I can't talk from personal experience. But I'm thinking hard about that, and I would appreciate any comments you have on the subject. But I'll tell you one that I thought of between this morning and now. This will, the 5 wishes, it asks you what's important in your life and what you want people to remember of you. I think that one way to start people talking about that is to get 2 copies of it. Give them one and you give one. And you fill yours out. You tell them, I'm beginning to fill this thing out now. I'd like to share it with you. Would you be interested in doing something like that too? And that might be a way to break the ice and start people thinking about this odious subject. People are scared to death.
That's called a triple.
Well, it's fun. It's
hat
fun.
trick. A hat trick.
It's fun to use that word.
That's an excellent thought. And I'll ask our timer for 1 minute for evaluations.
I'll talk to you later. I'm in the midst of it. I'm doing one. Something very important for people with kids.
Yes,
Think about who is going to get your kids.
yes. Okay. We are now segueing from our prepared speeches to the section of extemporaneous speaking. We have table topic session every meeting to give people the opportunity to speak off the cuff as if you're in a situation in business where your manager or your president might come up to you and ask you a question and you're on the spot. This is that opportunity for you to practice. Please welcome Abby. That looks like she has a bag of tricks today.
I have the odious task of visiting with my accountant and tax person today. And I did remember to bring a bag of goodies. I also wanted to mention that table topics are some of the most favorite times during our meetings for myself. And every day I'm reminded of why they are so important. It's not just preparing for your speech and scheduling it and filling out the books, but speaking off the cuff is sometimes what we do every day. My husband, for example, is the mayor of our town, Manaville, and he did not know he was supposed to be at the meeting, and someone called him literally 2 minutes before the meeting, and he's also in Toastmasters. And they asked him to come up and speak in front of 100 people, and he was not scheduled to speak. So he pulled his Toastmasters, table topic speech out and thought of his 3 things to talk about, welcome the guests, and so on, and he did fine. And he sat down, and the gentleman next to him said, "That was all off the cuff?" He's like, "I owe it all to Toastmasters." So, I have a bag of goodies here, and we do have a little bit of time. I think we can maybe get 3 or 4 in at least. So I'd like a volunteer, and you can pick something up. There's no hairbrushes in here.
Okay.
Sunglasses.
Okay.
Those are my son's sunglasses. I had to borrow them from
Okay,
him.
I want to try and put them on.
I want you to tell me something fun and wonderful and bright about your summer.
Oh.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna put it across. I am enjoying spending time with my 2 kids. My daughter is going to move to Colorado in September and probably is not going to come back. So this is the last time that we have together with all 4 of us. And we're having lots of fun when we actually get together. Everybody's usually going in all kinds of different directions. But the most fun was the 4th of July at Forestville that I can think of off the top of my head. They have an old-fashioned 4th of July from 1899. Baseball, pie eating contest, watermelon, you know, the whole 9 yards. So, kids, my daughter works there and my son volunteers there, so they're working and brought the in-laws along, and we had just having a good time. And it's an annual tradition that my son and I have a pie eating contest against each other. And for the 3rd year in a row, I am undefeated! And I always get a blueberry pie. And you don't gently or cleanly eat it. You stick your face in it. Needless to say, blueberries everywhere. And my sunglasses are on the top of my head. If you ever had a chance to eat blueberry pie, do it fast. It's
Checkbook. It's your
Do
checkbook.
you
still use a checkbook, or do you prefer to look on?
Ah, very good question. I can give you back your
Okay.
checkbook. I'd be tempted to run to the mall. Not to do that. I mostly use my computer. I started online bill pay a couple of years ago, and I love it. So I carry my checkbook just for the rare occasion that I need to write out a check. I think when I joined Toastmasters, I filled out the form and wrote out a check, but I think there's an online option. Using the word online, just teaching myself out loud. Right back down. I love the convenience of online banking. It allows you to do things wherever you are, which suits my lifestyle very well. I'm on the go with kids, so I would much rather be able to pay my bills if I'm sitting on the sidelines of a softball game, or if I'm at work, which is a mobile office, and I can just do whatever I need to do. So the checkbook sits in my purse, but is not used very often, and I can't even remember the last time I ordered checks. Thank you.
Me, will you come up? Describe your favorite birthday party or plan for a birthday.
Madam Tabletop Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, welcome Ryan. Today is my birthday.
Oh,
wow.
Oh.
Oz.
Serendipity.
Yeah, and it was face down. I thought, paper plate, I'll do a Frisbee thing. No, it's my birthday. I am having the best birthday today. It's just been a good day. Nothing spectacular or really unusual, other than maybe the paper plate has happened, but it's just been a fun day. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. My best birthday was my 40th, and that was a few years back, just so you know. My 40th birthday, my husband threw me a surprise party. Now, at the time, I think my oldest son was 13, 14, and the last Harry Potter movie was just released in the theater. So we had grand plans to go on my birthday, and it was a special event to see the last Harry Potter movie. So the 2 of us went, and it was a perfect ruse, because that meant my husband had to stay home with the youngest son. We left, we went to the movie, and as we drove up to the house, at the far top of the hill, I thought, looks like my parents' car. and parked down around the corner, but I could still see, that looks like his parents' car. So I knew, based on the parking situation, that I was in for a treat. But I was surprised and I was overwhelmed and humbled by the number of people who came, family, friends, and the celebration that we had. It was the most wonderful, my favorite birthday.
Thank you very much, Abby. Good job. Yeah, don't forget your checkbook. Good job. I always love when we have the bag of tricks. It's so much fun with the slinky.
Oh, yeah.
Our next and most important segment of our meeting today begins with our evaluation section. Please help me welcome Shelley as our general evaluator today.
What a wonderful meeting today. Only 2 speakers, but had 2 very interesting topics. I can't believe the way we had a chance to hear history come to life. Thank you for that wonderful speech, Tanya. And I can't believe that Joe Sharp could make the odious topic of death so interesting and engaging. Really, really admirable. So that was an interesting speech that you gave to the group today. We do have 2 evaluators who will come forward today and share more about their thoughts. I think it's going to be an odious task to try to find room for improvement for these 2 speeches, but I'm sure our evaluators have some tips to offer. So John, please come forward for your evaluation.
Thank you. And the evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and most especially Tanya. This is kind of a loaded question for me. For about your speech about Sacagawea, you actually taught me something.
I did, yes.
Yes! We, as about 7, 8 years ago, we took the Lewis and Clark Trail from Fort Mandan all the way to Fort Clatsop and had done during the homeschool process the whole thing. So I know many things about Sacagawea, Chateaubriand, and Pompeii, and the different places. So I knew what was going to happen at Beaverhead Rock. But I think you did a very, very good job in describing your life and describing what went on. I would have liked even more detail about it and about what went on and how did she come involved with Lewis and Clark. And would have liked more stories about Pompeii and how she carried him on the back and did all those things. It was a wonderful story. I think it was very good how you ended it at the massacre or potential massacre and how you built it up. And not people that didn't know the story didn't know it was her brother that was the chief. He would have meant more if he would have known the tribes.
Yeah,
Mentioned
yeah.
the tribes.
Yep.
I know this is a fast speech and everything, and I don't. It wasn't the Shoshone, it was a different tribe, and I
know,
remember it, and
I
I
know.
can't
I
do
agree
it
with
right
you.
now.
I agree with you.
The one thing I learned was about she wanted to stay close to potatoes. I've never heard that one before. And would have liked more detail, even how hard it was and how they had to travel. Those keel boats are tiny, and they had a large number of people on them, and they weighed a lot. And there's many hardship stories. The one I always like to think about is when they're in Fort Clatsop, they spent the winter there. It rained every day except one from October to April, whenever it was. And the amazing fact to me is they had 7 pounds of elk meat a day per man. Could you imagine? Wow, I couldn't even look at an elk after that. But thank you for bringing this life, or this story to life. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you, John. And next, we're going to have Amy evaluate speech number 2. Thank you.
Toastmasters, and again, Ryan, yes, and especially Joe. Prepare for the inevitable. I remind my 16-year-old son that he is not invincible on an almost daily basis. You have taken the same task to me today. I am not invincible. How do we get people to talk about this subject? There were three things, and I think you answered that today. You brought this to us today. And you inspired us so much through the course of your speech that we couldn't stop talking about it during the minute of silence. We were all having a conversation about it, which was good. I think that was the intent of your speech. Prepare for the inevitable, to me, was an inspirational speech as well as an informative speech. But I think you had inspired us to take action, not only in sharing us through sharing the information, but also telling us about your story with your wife. And that brought the personal touch to the information, to the inspiration, and that call to action. So that's what I took away from your speech: information and inspiration. The organization you brought to the speech was excellent. This is, I think, one of the gifts that you have, as well as your presence that you bring to the stage. The big pair, to get a helper, preferably someone young and organized. And the third piece, to talk about it and emphasizing the point of not waiting. So I think structure, your delivery of the speech, the purpose that you had, all of those objectives met in full. A couple of pieces that I thought you might want to take advantage of or think about for the next time you're giving this speech, perhaps to one of those funeral directors, would be to watch your time. You did go over today, and you acknowledged it from the timekeeping, yet you still claimed our attention. You said, I know I'm short on time, but I'm going to continue talking. And that's good, and I think here in Toastmasters, and we had the time today, we all respected that and we let you go, but that may not be the case in other situations. So I wanted to offer that as an area for you just to keep an eye on. A couple of other things I would have loved to seen a copy of that book, Ernest Becker. It reminded me of the importance of being earnest. If any of you have caught that play on words with the title, it fit here with your topic today, the importance of being earnest. But to have that book, and also you talked about the advance directive, the 5 wishes. And you said, go out, find that, and in fact get 2. And that's part of our hints to be able to talk about it, bring that forward. What I would have loved today is if you had samples with you. It would have been even more of a call to action to us to have that right in our hands. Fill it out. Don't wait. There's no barriers. So those are some offers of suggestions for maybe a way that you might make this a little bit more impactful going forward. It was a fantastic speech, very poignant, relatable to all of us, and as always, job well done. Thank you.
Okay, next I believe we have the report from the timer. Is that correct?
General evaluator and fellow Toastmasters again. Everybody was, with the exception of Joe, which is okay, I think, because we had no time today. Everybody was on time. Tanya requested 7 to 9, and yours was 8:04. So good. Joe requested about 8. I put 8 to 10 down. It was 13:16, but again, I enjoyed hearing the full speech, so I think it was very valuable to do that. For table topics, John was first with 1:35. Shelley, you almost made it with 56 seconds. Oh, 4 more seconds of talking.
So close.
So close. Maybe I started the time too. That's awesome. Amy was 1:36. For evaluations, John 2:49 and Amy was 3:16.
Okay, next we'll have our report from the grammarian / Toastmaster.
Thank you for that warm welcome. Odious. Joe, I counted 3 times. You're winning today. We have Shelley with 2, Abby 1, Deanna 1. I don't know if you can count that or not. I think that's it. And I just said Shelley 1 Deanna 1 Tanya. I didn't hear any uhs or ums. Picturesque language, I heard marauding Indians, treacherous, acquiesce, massacre. Those are all words that vividly paint a picture of what was happening in Lewis and Clark's expedition. So, well done. I would like to offer you a suggestion. And this is, as friends, you may not have uhs and ums, but when you are searching for a word, you gravitate to words that aren't professional enough for your speaking ability, because you are an eloquent speaker. I'm hearing stuff, thing,
Like,
those words take your speech down just a notch, because everything else was outstanding. Your pacing, excellent. Eloquence, excellent. Just work on those filler, for you they're fillers, because you can't quite think of what you're going to say, so maybe a little bit more preparedness in this case, possibly.
absolutely.
Well done. Joe, again, I have the odious task of looking for words from you that are, I've never heard you say or ever. So, well done. Things that I caught about your speech today that I thought fit so perfectly with your word choices were denial of death in the book, the 5 wishes, which really are a great way of explaining what we want our loved ones to know about us. You use the word secrets, valued traditions, and the word predeceases, which you don't hear very often in common language. So well done. Again, very few fillers today, so I'd say it was a very good, grammatically speaking meeting.
Well, I think you all received some very valuable, constructive feedback today, so thank you everyone for taking the time and energy to really put a lot of effort into helping our speakers improve. I think it's all appreciated. Thank you for letting me be the general evaluator for the first time. As I step into these roles, I think I learn each and every time, so thank you for bearing with me through the process.
You are doing a wonderful job. Are there any announcements from our club officers?
Yes.
Would you like to talk about the contest?
Yeah, I think we can, any one of us could
Since we have 2 minutes,
speak to that on the 19th, I
19th
believe.
of August.
Which is it's a short turnaround time. But if you are interested in participating in a humorous speaking competition, or if you would like to play a role as a judge or ballot counter or something like that, it will be on the 19th. That is the fall competition this year. There's not an international. It's the humorous.
Really?
Is
Just
the
humorous?
singular one that's happening this fall. So August 19th.
August 18th
August
here
19th
will be our
here.
club contest, Joe. Humorous.
The area contest is, did she say the 26th?
Something like
I
that.
think it's the
Very
26th.
quick turnaround.
And
Yeah,
then the
that's what's driving
district
it.
is September 12th. So you would need to compete 3 times, the 19th of August, the 26th of August, and the 12th of September.
And for participants to qualify, is it
6 speeches.
6 speeches in before you can qualify to
And humorous means you have to write it yourself. You can't take somebody else's funny story like a Seinfeld or Andy Samberg or Adam Sandler. It has to be your
Jimmy
own
Fallon.
original writing, right? Or,
Yes.
but you can have a certain percentage, I think it's 5 to 10% of quotes, as long as you cite the quotations within your original script. You see, right?
Thank you. Ryan, would you care to introduce yourself to our members?
Sure. Yeah. I'll stand and introduce myself. I'm Ryan Lachemont. I'm doing an administrative fellowship here. It's a 2-year program, so I'll be here for at least 2 years. Originally from the Bay Area, California, and kind of making my way east. Did my undergrad at Brigham Young University. Met my wife there. Worked with Intermountain Healthcare for a few years. Decided to head back to grad school. Most recently, I'm coming from Ohio State.
The Ohio State?
The Ohio State,
The Ohio
yes,
State.
yes, yes.
That's what they say in the NFL. I love when they say that.
The Ohio State University, and we have three little kids, a little girl and 2 little boys. So we're adjusting well to Rochester and happy to be here.
Welcome.
Nice,
It's
welcome.
very nice to have you here. You're most welcome to attend as many sessions as you want, other clubs as well, if you want to check out which one might fit your schedule best if you're considering joining. I would like to conclude that this was a great meeting. Thank you for those that stepped up to fill roles and switching around to accommodate schedules. I don't believe, oh yes, I have one final announcement. Next week, August 5th, this is the lineup. Sarah will be our Toastmaster. Grammarian, Tanya. Timer, Amit. Speaker, Deganta. Speaker number 2, Andrew. Speaker number 3, Jennifer Allen. General Evaluator, Melissa. Evaluator 1, Thomas. Evaluator 2, Abby. And Evaluator 3, Kaylee. And that concludes our meeting today. Thank you very much.